Hi everyone, welcome to the 15th episode of the Zicast. As always, I'm your host Ryan Ziaks, and today I'm joined by the president of Q30, Coar.
How are you?
Good.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. And of course we have Casey McNichol, who I would like to thank for her constant support and for making sure that our operation is running smoothly. So Connor, I think you have an idea of what this podcast is about, getting to know my friends on a deeper level, because everyone has a story. So with that said, Connor, how about we get into things?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how about you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so for the people who don't know me, my name's Connor. Nice to meet you guys. I'm a third-year journalism major at Quinnipiac. I'm in the 3+1 program, so I'll be graduating this upcoming May. And then in May of 25 again with my master's in sports journalism. I'm from Pennsylvania, so there's not too many people from my area, as many as like you would think from like Connecticut or Massachusetts or Rhode Island or even Long Island. I feel like I know too many people from Long Island at this point because like there's just so many of them that decide to come here. Just under a 3-hour drive from my house to Quinnipiac. I hope this podcast will evoke a little bit more than that, but that's about it as a baseline, I guess.
Yeah, I think it will. I have faith. So how about you tell us a bit about some of your positions at the school?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you said like a Q30 president, which I've had the great honor of being in for roughly a year right now. I got elected beginning of last March of 23, so a little over a year now. Outside of that, I've been a broadcaster for the Quinnipiac Bobcat Sports Network for a couple of years now. Been writing a lot for them, taking photos. I've gotten a lot into sports photography over the last probably year and a couple months now. Really, January of 23 is when I started. When I had the opportunity to go to Frozen Fenway for the women's ice hockey game when they played Harvard. So it was a lot of fun. Never been to Fenway before. It's funny enough that it was a hockey game before a baseball game, which is kind of funny. So outside of that, don't really do too much. I mean, if you want to into the weeds about it, I'm on an intramural volleyball team with all my roommates right now and a couple of friends. Awesome. But other position-wise, I think that's about it. So that's all I got.
Incredible. And that's kind of just to reflect on it, kind of how we ended up meeting on, if you remember that the first, I forget what it's called, the media summit?
The Wednesday night, the Student Media Summit in the media suite where like QBSN, Q30, the Chronicle, the Yearbook, and Montage. I think I got all of them right. Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Where they were all there, we kind of introduced ourselves and basically just allowed anyone to kind of go wherever they want, roamed to ask different organizations about their organization and see if it's something they'd be interested in doing. I probably talked to too many people that day at the Involvement Fair during the day, and then again at the Student Media Summit. So. But it's still always a great time just to talk to people, try to finding their why and why they want to do media and being in communications. And it's always cool to hear everyone's stories, which is obviously the focus of this podcast, but always just like to talk to people about like where they came from and basic stuff like that.
Yeah, it was funny because I met you there and we talked there, and then we kind of went into the media suite, and that's where I met Casey. She was in there, and then Ryan Agnello was in there. Casey Poffins and Delica. So it was like the whole cast of my supporting characters. We're all in there.
Trying to go through your story arc and just kind of finding all your support characters.
On my journey.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of funny to reflect back on that now, especially where we are now. So to kind of move on from that, kind of get into these topics, I'd like to ask you what drew you to Q30 and when you realized you kind of wanted to move up the ranks there?
So, I mean, I guess I could start just the story of how I came to Quinnipiac as well, because that ties into it as well. So in high school, I was like the program director of the TV station at my high school. I think even pretty much the end of my sophomore year, so my junior and senior year, I was pretty much running the entire thing along with my teacher. But he'll tell you I taught him more than he taught me those last 2 years of high school. So when I started applying to schools, I knew that I wanted to eventually, like the dream job was always to work at ESPN. So then I started looking at schools like around ESPN, just kind of was like, oh, let's see what's out there. Never really knew much about Connecticut. I don't think I was in Connecticut previously to looking at schools. But then I found Quinnipiac, and then saw how good the journalism program was, how good the School of Communications was for as small as it is still. So there's only like roughly like 200 kids in the School of Communications, which is really cool to see how impactful they've had, how much impact they've had on the university as being only one of the smaller schools on campus. So then I started learning more about the university, started talking with my recruiter at the time, and she was kind of just like, hey, we have this thing called the 3+1 program, where you can get your bachelor's in 3 years and then your master's in your fourth. And I was kind of shocked to hear that. And then I looked at the eligibilities, and then I was like, oh, I think I can qualify. So I asked her about it, and she said, yeah, like we can hook you up with that. And so it was very financially beneficial. I've told everyone that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the 3+1 program. I think that goes for a lot of kids who are in those accelerated dual degree programs. But then really what stuck out to me as well was the former dean who left last May. He sent me a personal email, like not a automated message. Like he even said that in this first line. He said, Connor, this is not an automated message. This is actually who I am. And he invited me and my family onto a personalized tour, one-on-one, just him. And me and my dad, we did it with him. Yeah, it was me and my dad. He's actually coming up on it 3 years ago. Yeah, like March 27th, I got a memory on Snapchat that it was like just about 3 years ago. I came here on a visit. And then, he told me about the university, he told me about all these people. I talked to Lila Carney, who's the career development head here at the School of Communications, and kind of just fell in love with the place immediately walking on campus. And I thought, like, just the fact that the dean of the School of Communications was sending me a personal email, it meant a lot, and that was the only university who did it amongst the others that I applied to. And I think I applied to 8 or 9 schools, and that was the only one that really stuck out to me. So, so from there, it was kind of a set, done and deal. I came to Quinnipiac, started kind of just getting involved right away. Started showing up to Q30 shows, started going to QBSN meetings on Wednesday nights, met some outstanding people who I still talk to and I'm good friends with to this day, who've been in the industry for probably at this point 2 or 3 years now at this point, because after they graduated in May of 22. And it really showed me that, you have a huge opportunity here at Q30 and really in student media as well. Because I always tell everyone, like, if you're not doing extracurriculars, what are you doing with your college experience, in all honesty? Because this is a breeding ground to get real world experience before you actually do the real world experience. Because I told everyone that, like, you're more than likely to make mistakes here and you're not going to get, fired because of it. But then once you get out in the real world, it's like, you're going to be on a lot tighter of a leash than you are now. So really throwing everything at the wall and seeing how it sticks. And I think that's what stuck out with me the most. And then as I started becoming an associate producer for Bobcat Breakdown, which is one of the 5 shows at Q30, I quickly became an executive producer my following, like the end of my freshman year and then going into my sophomore year. And obviously went from executive producer to now being the Q30 president in Q30. So I don't really know what was the deciding factor for me to want to move up the ranks, I guess you could say, but it's always just been a natural progression for me about like trying to lead people. I think it's something I've always been naturally drawn to, and I don't know what it was, to be honest with you. I think it's just the way that my parents raised me, how I've interacted with people, that it's a very rewarding opportunity to do, and I've always felt like I've been able to lead well, and being able to be the president of Q30 is probably just the next progression of that. And like I said before, I'm extremely thankful to have the opportunity to be in that role.
Wow. That really speaks a lot, says a lot, the dean taking you and your family, that kind of personal touch.
Yeah, I would like to think that I'm not the only one who he reached out to. Because I don't think there was anything that indicated that I was like this exceptional high school student, because they didn't have like a 4.0 or anything like that. Like I had like a 3.4 or 3.5 before I came here. But like, yeah, I knew nobody at Quinnipiac. The only person I knew was a physical therapy major, so he probably wouldn't have met her. So like, it was really cool to see, and I'm still waiting to get it. I still haven't asked him why he sent me that email, but sooner or later I will ask him. Just don't know when. I'm waiting for that perfect opportunity too. So
yeah, I mean, you have one you have one now.
Yeah,
being president of Q30 and everything that's led to. But kind of just shows personal touch and the way that can move people. And really, yeah, I mean, and thinking about the communications program here at Quinnipiac, it's funny because it's like the little bubble we're in.
Yeah.
Like it feels so massive. But in regards to other programs at the school, yeah, it probably is much smaller.
Yeah.
And
and I know the School of Business is huge because like 2 of my roommates are in the School of Business, or 3 of them. Sorry, 3 of them are in the School of Business, and then there's also like physical therapy, occupational therapy, like health sciences, law. Like all those schools are like so much bigger. So when you really step back and look at all of it, it's a very small school in terms of the rest of the university.
Yeah, and you bring up physical therapy major, like that's what my older brother does.
Okay,
health
yeah.
sciences program, that's massive. So it's kind of interesting to think. Like I feel like I walk around, all I see.
Does he go Quinnipiac?
Yeah. So
he does. Okay.
Yeah. So he graduated, but he's in the graduate program here.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Becoming a physical therapist. Yeah, and I just feel like when I walk around campus, all I kind of see is Q30.
Yeah.
That's also my perception
Yeah.
of constantly being around Q30 and communication students. That's kind of just a fun thing to think about, and it is incredible where you kind of started off with Bobcat Breakdown and then kind of continuing to grow into being a part of Q30's cabinet.
It's like I said, I couldn't honestly tell you the big reason why I wanted to do the president role, but it's definitely something, like I said, it's just kind of like a natural progression for me of like leading people, because like as an associate producer you weren't really doing too much, and then as an executive producer you're kind of in charge of like roughly 20 people in any given week. But then I wouldn't say in charge, but like you have to manage like around 20 people, and then in a president's role it's probably like 150 175, right around there, active members in Q30. DUQ will say over 400, but there's really only so many active members. But yeah, so it's been a cool experience. I definitely learned a lot about myself at being in the role, because you had 150 people that you need to manage, but that's why you bring on like 8 or 9 other executive board members, where like the sports director, news, actually I am the news director this year, but entertainment director, vice president, head engineer, planning engagement, marketing, web director, like all these people. Like I wouldn't be able to do all of it by myself, so I give everyone a lot of credit just being willing and wanting to do and be a part of the executive board, because it does take a lot from I'm assuming what other people want to do, because like in like looking back on it, like these last 2 months probably, I've known that I've wanted to like go into either producing or TV reporting after school, and being in the executive roles, it doesn't really allow you to do as much, especially with Q30, because it's a lot of managing other people and stuff like that. So that's one thing that I've learned as well. But I wouldn't, if I could go back and change anything, I wouldn't. Like I've enjoyed every single second, because like I said, I wouldn't have learned so much about myself if I wasn't in the role. So I'm thankful for that every day.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's kind of a necessary challenge of sorts, if that's the way to phrase it. Just a great learning experience for you, like you said, where you have these opportunities in Q30, and you don't have a side of a leash.
Yeah,
like you said. And I feel that even though maybe that's not something you would want to do, as you said, you want to go into reporting, you never know. You could rise up the ranks of ESPN.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, it's a crazy world out there. And even though it like, especially the media and communications field is such like a huge, you think it's such a huge field, but like everyone knows everyone in some capacity. Like that's one thing that's been harped on in Com 101, Com 201, learning about like just networking with people and stuff like that. Like one of the assignments in Com 201 is literally making a LinkedIn profile and trying to get 50 connections by like your next class, like in a week. So I think right now I'm like probably closer to 500 at this point, but granted, I don't talk to 500 people every day, because I'd have no other time to myself. But yeah, the connections you make with other people, and I met plenty of people from ESPN. I've met plenty of people from WFSP, where I'm currently doing my news internship. Trying just people a little bit everywhere of always going to help you get other places. So yeah, I've been very fortunate to be able to talk to people.
Yeah, LinkedIn is very useful.
Yeah,
I've learned. I consider myself a LinkedIn legend based upon the work I'm trying to put on.
Yeah, trying to build up as many connections as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll humble myself. I say I'm trying to become a LinkedIn legend.
Yeah.
But I'm working my way up there. But yeah, and that's a great tool for in the communications field. I feel like especially communications because it's so network based and not necessarily linear, if that makes sense. Where I feel like you could get somebody who knows your work and then contacts you to do something for them, and that can lead, and then somebody else could do the same thing. So that's why I feel that LinkedIn is quite nifty for us.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So like, when you look at it, like LinkedIn is like the way they have it set up is like you could have like your first connection. Like I think I'm a first connection with you, and Casey is also in here today. But like you may know somebody that I don't know, and it'll show up as like second connections. Like you could be the bridge between me and another person. Like I think that's a really cool part about LinkedIn. And like even if you have like a mutual connection with them, like it's very easy to just like, hey, I want to connect with you. And like if you ever need anything, like you have people, you know somebody who knows somebody who may know somebody who also knows somebody. So like it's just like that trickle down effect that some people get, and that's how they end up getting jobs out of college and jobs while they're in college, and others don't, and they tend to fall behind as well. So
very much so, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also just putting yourself out there.
Oh yeah.
Which is very vital.
Mm-hmm.
As we shout out LinkedIn sponsoring the Zicast.
Yeah. We probably shouldn't have had that entire segment about it because I don't think we have any free
advertising, but
free ad for them, I guess.
No. Not yet is what I would like to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're kind of drawing upon kind of everything you've done in Q30. I like to ask some fun memories or moments you've had with the station.
Oh boy, I would like. I think there's a lot. I just probably can't remember as many of them right now.
Yeah.
But I know my freshman year, it was a very cool experience because I was able to go to the MAC volleyball championship up in Siena, so up in Albany, New York, with two guys that already graduated now, but then also Gage Kilborn, who's still a member of Q30, is a graduate student now. And that was really my first opportunity to travel to any event. So like it was my first time I got credentialed for like the MAC, which is the conference that the volleyball team plays in. And just looking back on it, I was like honestly starstruck that I was asked to go, because I honestly like wasn't expecting to go anywhere like my first semester, and that was been right around Thanksgiving time. So like 2 or 3 months into the school year, I was already like traveling, and like it just goes back to what I was saying, like that experience you get from covering a volleyball tournament, going to Atlantic City for the men's and women's basketball tournament, which is a huge tournament down there. Like having all those little opportunities, like you're not going to get that sitting in a classroom. Well, granted, I want to preface this as well. Like the professors are awesome here at Quinnipiac, especially in the School of Communications, but there's only so much theory that you can be taught about, and a lot of it has to come down to getting out there and putting your foot forward and, kind of trial by fire, I guess you could say. So looking back on that experience right there, like, it was a really cool one. Granted, there were a lot of things that I would change because I've learned so much over the last 2 years from that first experience. But I was still very grateful for everyone involved who asked me to go, and I said yes. And since I'm the only one that I knew from Pennsylvania at that point in student media, that I had my parents had to drive from my house to Albany and back on probably the weekend before Thanksgiving, I think it was. So like they had to sacrifice their time to come and pick me up in Albany because I was stranded in a hotel for about 30 minutes by myself. So yeah, whatever. Yeah. But like that experience was awesome. And then I went to Boston College as well for a basketball WNIT game for the women's basketball team at Quinnipiac. That was a pretty quick turnaround because I had it on, like, they found out they were going there on Saturday, and then I was sitting in the media suite on Sunday, and the chairman at the time, he asked me, it was pretty much like, hey, do you want to go to this tomorrow, 2 hours away? And I was like, I mean, sure. Because like I had my own podcast at the time with my direct roommate, who's still now my suite mate, and he was like, and I was like, we have it at this time, but like, is it okay if I go? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. You're going to Boston College to cover a women's NIT right now, which is like a pretty big tournament on the women's bracket for basketball. So that was a cool opportunity. And then I went to Penn State for the women's soccer NCAA championship game, which is the first time they won the MAC to get to the NCAA tournament since they joined the conference back in 2013. Granted, they lost 4-1, and when I tell you it was freezing, it was like so cold. It was windy. It was like in the perfect spot where the wind was coming directly across the field. The bleachers weren't blocking or anything like that. Like, it was not fun because it was so cold. But looking back on it, it was still one of the coolest experiences that I saw, because I'm pretty sure that year they went to like the Elite 8 or the Sweet 16 in the tournament, and there's like 68 teams like there is for March Madness. So it's still cool to see those top teams make a deep run in the tournament. And then I was able to go to Atlantic City this past spring break, so it would have been March 12th, I think, like that week of spring break. That's something I've been looking forward to, honestly, for the last 2 years, and be able to finally go to it was awesome. Very fast-paced games. I think the first day of the tournament was at like 11 a.m. or like 10:45 a.m. So like I wasn't. I luckily enough I didn't have to go to that game, but we had to go to the 12:30 game because the women's team was playing. Oh geez, who were they playing? And they were playing St. Peter's. I think they were the 10th seed at that point. And then we ended up making the men's basketball team ended up making it to the semifinals and then losing to St. Peter's of all teams. So that was really cool. So we got to stay until Friday. Yeah, because the championship game would have been on Saturday. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I've had plenty of experiences. I know a kind of very long-winded answer, but still a lot of experiences that I'm more than thankful for, and hopefully I can make more in the last year and change of school that I have.
Yeah, I really feel that there's nothing cooler than traveling with your friends and doing and kind of just learning more about the field you want to work in.
Yeah. And that's one of the big things too. Like, I know I talked about like my experiences with it as well, but like I think the most I went with was down in Atlantic City. I think there was like 12 of us from Quinnipiac that went down with their respective media organizations. And then there's a lot of people who went on every single trip that I went to. So that was a lot of fun. Like, the memories that you make with your friends is like invaluable. Like, I know I still make jokes about the Penn State trip because Santino Maione, who's a senior now at Quinnipiac, he thought that Penn State was in Philadelphia. And I'm just like, what are we doing? Because I'm a resident.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially for you.
Because especially from Pennsylvania, and like, you can make, I don't know if you can see this. So like, you can make a map of Pennsylvania pretty much on your hand. Yeah, okay, we got it. All right. So like, Penn State's here. Pittsburgh's there. Like, Philly is all the way over here in the corner. Like, it was just not even close, but he, I guess, thought that Penn State was in Philadelphia. But because it's a pretty developed area, but not as developed as Philadelphia. So, but like those jokes that we still crack every once in a while, I just like to, a little nostalgic, I guess you could say, about trips and like the memories that you make with your friends. So,
yeah, it just bonds people. Sorry, my like 5 hours of sleep is impacting my speech. Yeah. But yeah, it bonds people, and I'm sure like really like the everyday brings you some of the best moments. Like just being able to do work with your friends and to grow with them and to have these fun experiences. And then on top of that, you add the blessings of being able to travel around the kind of area to report on sports. And of course, just to be able to watch sports, to be able to watch college athletics.
Yeah, and that's one of the big reasons that I wanted to get into working into sports as well, was because like if you told me that you could get paid to go watch like the NBA Finals or the Super Bowl or the Stanley Cup, like you get paid to watch but also work that game, like it was like a done deal for me at that point. And like I got into sports and I was like, or knew I wanted to work in sports in like 5th or 6th grade, like right before I got into middle school. So like seeing like Steve Levy, if I remember correctly, like these guys, like these bunch of anchors dancing at work while talking about sports, I remember it vividly. Like if you told me that you could dance at work and get paid to do it, like sign me up. Like it's a done deal. So that's really got me into it. But yeah.
I'm that video of Gus Johnson dancing in the commentator booth is in my mind. He's
my
favorite.
He's one of the best. Yeah. So like he can just be screaming noises and you'd still know what's going on. It's like it's unbelievable. Like I know like he does the Fox games.
Mm-hmm.
But like he's like one of the best play-by-play commentators that I've not been around because I've never met him before, but like been able to watch and see how he does all his work. Kevin Harlan, Jim Nantz, Mike Breen, all these guys. Like I know those are like they're all with the top 4 broadcasters, but there's plenty of other guys who have been extremely beneficial to watch and learn from. And even here at Quinnipiac, there's like the play-by-play commentators for the basketball and hockey teams. Like they're awesome people. I've talked to them multiple times just being at all the games and them noticing my face, me recognizing theirs, and just kind of chopping it up with them and talking about their careers and stuff like that. So
yeah, there's like a profound art to commentating, to being able to kind of bring energy while also understanding I would say like the intricacies of the game and kind of feeling the moments of it all. Because a great commentator line can really elevate a moment.
Oh yeah.
On its own, like even a buzzer beater or something like that.
Oh yeah, it's crazy to think about. Like if you look at the greatest moments, like the moments are heightened by the words that are spoken behind them. Like I think about the 2016 NBA Finals in Game 7, where the Golden State Warriors are playing the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think of the moment I'm getting ready to talk about, where it's a transition play and LeBron James comes in transition and pins the ball off the backboard. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. You remember the moment by Mike Breen saying, Curry to Iguodala to layup, blocked by James.
James.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that moment was obviously still a huge moment, but it's heightened by the moments that Mike Breen was saying. And then I think Stan Van Gundy and Mark Jackson were on that call with him, and they're kind of talking about how like he's once in generation talent, which obviously he is. But like just talk about the moment as well as it's a cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah, and the Mike Breen, the usual bang.
Yeah,
the
bang,
threes.
Yeah. Like those infamous calls like get used a lot. But like obviously it wasn't created until somebody started saying it. So
yeah. And back on the topic of you talk about a lot of like really iconic announcers, like back on the Gus Johnson. I've always wanted him to do NFL games.
Oh yeah,
or more NFL games.
He does a lot of college football games. And I don't think he's done any NFL games recently.
Yeah, he does a lot of Big Ten games.
Yeah,
with
Big
Joel
Ten
Klatt.
football. Yeah, with Joel Klatt. Yeah, because that's on Fox Sports.
Yeah.
Because they signed that new media rights. I think it was 2 years ago. No, it was last year. Last year was the first season that Big Ten was on Fox.
Yeah. So I manifest things here on the Zicast. I want to manifest Gus Johnson doing more NFL games. Prime time games.
Yeah. We'll have to make sure to get on that. But I'm sure he wants to. I'm sure plenty more people have talked to him about it as well. Because I think he'd be great. But there's plenty of great guys who also do the NFL games on Fox as well. So they all do a really good job. CBS as well. And obviously with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman doing ESPN on Monday Night Football. Al Michaels. I can't even forget. Can't even remember words. I can't even fathom the fact that I forgot Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit to do the Prime Video now on Thursday night. So yeah, a lot of great guys.
Yeah,
that did the job well.
I'd be lying if I said I'd never wanted to do that because
it's like so much fun. Like all those guys were at one point or another like you and I, where we were just playing sports in high school and like we were always wanted to stay around the games and stay around the sports that we loved, and they felt that was the easiest way to do it, and obviously they've made a career out of it. So
yeah, I still got it.
Yeah, still got it. Yeah, you still got a chance. Yeah.
Yeah, very fun. But I let us astray a little. But
it's totally fine. I enjoyed talking about it.
Yeah. So I'd like to ask you about any other opportunities that Q30 has provided you. I know you've talked a lot about kind of what you've done, but anything else you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of talked about it a little bit, but like just honestly the people that I've been able to meet and just hearing different perspectives about people, because I come from a very, blue collar, you're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning to go to work or to go to school, go to the gym in the morning before school. So to hear different perspectives about how things are done on Long Island or in Connecticut or Mass, Rhode Island, whatever you wanted to call it, and like to kind of make those similarities, but also see the differences, because perspective is one of the biggest things that a person can have, and understanding that like you can't really fully understand or start judging a person until you've walked a mile in their shoes. Like before I met you, if I walked up to you and I said, "Hey, how are you?" and we started having a conversation, I'd be like, I try to do my best to be like, all right, let's see what this kid's all about and stuff like that. But also like trying to realize that there may have been things that have happened in your past that affect the way you are now. And I mean, it's the same thing with me as well. But just trying to understand that and trying to best become the better person you like, keep moving forward day by day, and just trying to become a better version of yourself than you were yesterday.
Very much so. And I do feel, especially in what we do, it's important to understand people or try to understand them as much as you can.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about this, but like everyone's different, and everyone can be motivated differently. That certain things drive certain people, and sort of finding that and kind of being able to elevate that in others is the way you kind of can get the best out of them.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, like when we were talking about the Student Media Summit, like the trying to find people's why and why they might want to get involved, why they want to make a career out of this thing that we call fun, and it's still a job in many circumstances. But just trying to figure all that stuff out, I think it's important, because it definitely helps you better understand the people around you, but also realize, like, if you can get 1% better each day, by the end of the year, you're 365 times better than you were by December 31st compared to you were on January 1st, although it's a leap year, so I think we had 366.
So even more.
Yeah, even better. So.
And that's just math.
Yeah, it's just math. Yeah. Just makes sense.
Just crunch those numbers. Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, that's why. Like, I'm not the greatest at math. I won't lie, but that's why I'm a communications major. So
I would say the same. That's why I do English and communications.
I'm not. But all I need to do is learn how to do averages, and that's just adding everything up and dividing it by the number of units that you have. So like that's about all I need to do.
Yeah. God knew I'd be too powerful. If I knew how to do math.
That's funny.
He had to nerf me.
Yeah, he had to slow you down.
But I'm keeping up.
Yeah.
So kind of on that same note, I'd like to ask you about your internship at WFSB and what that's teaching you.
Yeah, so I started that in late January. Yeah, like that first week of school when we came back in the spring, and it's been an awesome experience learning from professionals, reporters, producers, executive producers, news directors, content producers. Learning from all of them has been really cool because, like, you think you know quite a bit in college and in Q30, but to see how it's done in a top 35 market in the entire country, it's really interesting to see, like, where I can be able to I work there twice a week from 8 or 9 depending on the day until like 5 or 5:30. So I drive home, like a 25 minute drive depending on how fast you drive and how much traffic there is. But so like I go from there at 5:30, I get back here at 6:30, and I can immediately apply the things I learned in that day or over the entire semester and incorporate it into what I'm learning here at Q30. So that way I know that I'm preparing everyone else as a leader for how the real world works, because, you know, many people have told me that, like, oh, you don't get enough experience in Q30. And I'm like, all right, well, how do we change that? Like, let's try to figure something out to where you are benefiting from the time you're spending here at Q30, so that way when you get into real world, you're not, you know, a deer stuck in a headlight. So you're not just going to freeze and stuff like that. You're going to be able to figure stuff out. So I've tried to keep that in the back of my mind as I'm learning about all these things. So constantly asking questions, learning from other people has been invaluable, because I know that I can apply it right away, like 30 minutes once I get done with work. So
yeah, and it's kind of, I always believe in leading by example, to be able to be actually kind of working in media, and then, like you said, bringing those skills to Q30. It's a way to kind of show people that it does work.
And it does translate, yeah.
And it does translate, that it does work. And I feel like that can only kind of help motivate people to continue to really buy into Q30 and believe in what it could do for you.
Yeah, because, like, you're not here, you're not getting paid to be a part of Q30. Like, you're doing it on your own dime because you enjoy what you're doing and you enjoy spending time with people around you. And
I wish I did.
Yeah. I mean, we all wish we did. So, but like you're doing here, like not at the kindness of your heart, because you want to learn, you want to become a better whatever journalist, filmmaker, content creator, whatever it may be. So or producer even. So being able to do that has been one of the biggest reasons why I've stayed and obviously become the president of the station, because I've learned so much and I want to be able to pay it forward to the people who were in my position 2 years ago, where like they're just coming in trying to figure out how they're going to fit into college, adjusting from being away from home for the first time in 19 years, and being able to, make the most of it, because you're paying a lot to come here. So you might as well make the most of it. So
yeah, exactly. And it always is impressive to see kind of what people are able to do here, especially like a lot of the higher up producers, EPs, that just see, kids our age being able to do so many things, know so many things, know so many people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see, because like I know my one friend who is producing at WFSB right now as well. Like she's 22. Yeah, she's 22 right now, and like she's producing the 4:00 newscast right now at WFSB. So that's an awesome thing to see, that like literally a year ago, like less than a year ago. Literally a little bit less than a year ago, she was producing the Q30 newscast. Now she's producing a show up at WFSB in a top 35 market, like I was saying. So it's pretty cool to see. And I just hope people will get more involved, but not just because I'm the president, but I think it's also because it's invaluable experience that you're not going to get anywhere else. So,
well, I'm very much not the president, and I would second the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
all right, that's good. At least I got some validation from that.
Yeah, yeah. It's so crazy what a year can do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know from my experience, I walked into Quinnipiac as a stray pup, and then kind of found so many things. I very much consider things can change fast, and just kind of be along for the ride.
Oh, exactly.
Be open to all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the kind of something I observed from you, you've mentioned the Kaizen philosophy in the past.
Yeah.
And some of your presentations. So I'm curious as to how that impacts your leadership strategies and approach.
Yeah, I mean, so for people who don't know, the Kaizen philosophy is just basically looking for a constant improvement day in and day out. So that's why I kind of mentioned the getting 1% better each day. But like, there's always an opportunity to learn something. It's a very cliche thing to say, but there realistically is something to learn and do and gain experience from each and every day. So that's something that I have tried to remind myself of on days where I just don't feel like doing anything. Like you got to learn at least one thing. So I try to do that and continue to do that. So like right now I'm taking a 1-credit rock climbing class, and I've never rock climbed before in my life. So even like that first couple weeks, like I learned how to do a figure 8 knot, and like just because I'm pretty sure if I'm not mistaken, they said it was the people who taught me it was like one of the most secure knots you can have in rock climbing. So like just something that I think it was pretty cool to do. But with that philosophy, like it's very much about like constant improvement. Even when you think you know enough, there's always something to learn. And I don't even think you need to call it like I learned it from this Japanese philosophy, but because it's just something that like is always been ingrained to me, even though people haven't said, yeah, you have to follow this Japanese philosophy called Kaizen. It's just like a super well-known thing without saying there's an actual philosophy behind it. So
yeah, I remember you bringing it up at a Q30 meeting, and I'm like, wow, that sounds tough. I want to follow that, and it just makes so much sense, like you said, to kind of wanting to improve every day. And sometimes it's just in little ways.
Yeah, and like exactly like that one, like the 1%, like even 100 days after that one, like when you started finally making the decision to become better, you're already a better person than you were 100 days ago. And then like another 100 days, and then another 165 days, like you're gonna be a completely different person. April 3rd, 2024 to April 3rd, 2025. Like I already know I am. Probably because I also have tried to be finding a job at that point. But like just trying to become 1% better each and every day is something I try to remind myself and also tell people about as well, while also not being like, you have to do this, because it's something that it comes in different ways for people. People are motivated different ways. So like I said, just trying to find their why and pushing the right buttons to propel them forward to become the better version of themselves.
Yeah. And it's just a great message for life. Because you always want to be growing and learning, even when we kind of find our jobs and our passions and
Yeah.
things like that. I feel like that. I guess that's kind of like one of the main goals of life is
Mhm.
just kind of consistently growing, because life would be boring if you weren't.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Like if I was still, if I wasn't in college, I don't know what I'd be doing right now. I'd probably be I would be working. I don't know where or what in what capacity, but I know I'd be doing something not here. So
Yeah, I very much second that. I have no
Yeah.
clue what I would be doing
Yeah.
if I wasn't hosting the Zicast.
yeah, I don't know what you would be doing either. Jeez,
Yeah.
so much time on your hands now.
Yeah. But yeah, but of course you brought all those things to Q30, but now you're kind of your time as president is kind of coming to a close. So I wanted to ask you kind of what if you have some like parting words for Q30 and your feelings for its future.
Oh, geez, I don't know if I want to give all away everything now because we still have our end of the year meeting that we got to do.
But
But
you're a jerker.
yeah. That meeting will be a fun one for sure. But I was like I've been saying, we've talking about this entire time, like just trying to become a better version of yourselves each and every day, and making sure that you're kind of like, I don't know, moving, putting your best foot forward each and every day. Because the last thing any employer wants to see is you becoming stagnant or plateauing right before you're trying to get a job. And trying new things. I mean, everyone's, like I said, all the stuff that I'm saying is cliche, but it like actually means something and it actually matters. But it's something that I think is very important, and I'll continue to say it, even if I continue to sound like I'm beating a dead horse about it. But it's something that I truly believe in, and I just hope that people learn from it, even if it isn't while I'm the president. People look back on it and be like, oh yeah, he's actually right. Like that'll be the most rewarding thing about it. So like, I don't necessarily need a thank you for everything you've done in Q30. Like, I'll see it without people actually telling me that they've benefited from what I've been saying. So I try to always remind myself that as long as I'm doing the best that I can in the president role and trying to set people up for success, that's the only thing I can ask for. And whether they choose to take that advice, critiques, whatever it may be, like that's the only thing I can ask for. So,
Yeah, it's kind of like with your parents, where sometimes they say things you're like not really believing it in the moment. But then as time goes on, you're like, yeah, Mom, you were right.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I've thought
could
about
be-
that too. Like I've never wanted to be like this super like parenty person where like I'm just like constantly talking about those things. But I feel like a lot of times some people need to be reminded of it more than others do. So I kind of try to pick my battles and remind everyone once in a while, and others more often, because some people need it. Some people need to be motivated more consistently than others, because like I've seen it where like I jumped in day one at Q30, and like I've seen others where they wait a semester or they wait a year, 2 years, or they don't show up until their last year of college because they realized that, oh, I actually need to have like something to give my employers if I'm looking for a job. So like having those ideas and stuff like that, I've tried to continue to remind people of. And I won't know my true effect of the station until probably like, I don't know, a year, 2 years after, 2 or 3 years after, when I'm already gone. But if the station's in a better place than I found it, I'll be happy with that. So
yeah, and I have a ton of faith that it will be, and you kind of just have to, like you said, kind of continue to keep drawing these things in people's heads.
yeah, and I feel like there's a balance of it too. And I've tried to remind myself of that. Where, yeah, it's supposed to be a professional environment, but it's something that people are there to just have fun and have a good time, and I can't blame them for that. But there's like a standard at times that I need to make sure I'm setting and stuff like that. So it's a weird balance, and striking that balance between the two has been something I've definitely struggled with this year, because I've tend to be a very professional, like let's get stuff done driven person, where everyone's just like, yeah, I'm sure to have a good time, trying to get stuff done, trying to enjoy myself, extracurriculars and stuff like that. So like I said, striking that balance has always been a difficult thing.
Yeah, I very much agree. You always need balance in life in general.
Yeah.
And everything you do, always pros and cons, and just kind of balancing that, like you said. And you said that what you say is a cliche. I always say that a cliche on its own is a cliche, but the collection of cliches is not cliche. If that makes sense.
Got it. Yep, I'm with you now.
You see the vision?
Yeah, I see it now. I see it now.
So through that logic, it is not cliche.
Yeah.
If that makes you feel better about it.
Yeah, I've never heard about it. I've never heard of it said that way before, but yeah, no, it does make sense.
That's how it's said. Well, that's how I forget the filmmaker said it, but that's what a filmmaker said about his work, where it's like one cliche on its own is a cliche, but a collection of cliches, it's not a cliche.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I'll gaslight you into believing
yeah. I'll make sure to look it up after this, but no, I believe you. I'll believe you.
Yeah. So those are my parting words for you.
There you go.
So obviously you're big into sports, so I'd like to ask you about kind of some of your teams, and of course we're our mutual fandom of the Steelers.
Yeah. So like you said, I'm a Steelers fan for football, basketball. Miami Heat just got the win last night over New York, 109-99. But then I've never been a huge baseball or hockey fan, so I just say by virtue of being a Steelers fan, I'm also a Penguins and Pirates fan. But I'm starting to get more into hockey because I go to Quinnipiac, and I don't know if you've heard, but we won a national championship last year.
I think I did.
Yeah,
I heard it in passing.
Yeah, I heard it in passing. Yeah. So I've been trying to get more and more involved with that as well. But yeah, so Penguins, Pirates, Steelers, and the Miami Heat.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And the Steelers, we had probably our most bizarre, un-Steelersy offseason of all time, and it was so exciting.
Yeah, I saw a stat from CBS Sports. I think right now we're, as of like 2 days ago, I think we were at 11 free agent signings, which is like not what the Steelers do like at all.
Usually it's like one guy.
One guy who like I've never heard of. It is like on some random team, on like a 2-year deal worth like not vet minimum, but like a couple $1 million. But yeah, so like this offseason, like it just showed that Omar Khan, the new GM, like he was the right guy for the job because he's very aggressive. Like he said in his opening press conference, what about 2 years ago now? I think, was it 2 years ago?
Probably, yeah.
I think
this
so.
is the second offseason.
Second offseason, yeah. So like he's aggressive about his things. All he wants to do is win a Super Bowl. He won the Super Bowl in 2008.
Yes.
With the Steelers, but he wasn't in the GM role. It was Kevin Colbert. Excuse me. But like it's been very surprising, but I feel like we've had a lot of offseason moves that can help the team because at the end of the day, like every team wants to win a Super Bowl, but some teams actually like are just saying that just because like that's obviously the end goal every year. But I know Art Rooney Jr. said it after the season, like a couple weeks after the season ended this past year, after they lost to the Bills, that they shouldn't be satisfied with having just a winning record every year. Like you should be wanting to win playoff games. You want to be getting to the Super Bowl. And I feel like over the last couple of years, that's kind of been the standard. It's like we have to save Mike Tomlin's like non-losing seasons as a head coach, where they're getting off the path of, all right, we need to win Super Bowls. Like we're tied for the most right now with the 49ers and the Patriots.
So we're tied with the Patriots. The 49ers have 5.
They have 5, yeah. Okay, sorry. I thought they got a 6th one. Sorry. Oh, most recently, because I thought they were going to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl this year, but obviously that didn't happen. But like we're tied for the most. Like we should be continuing to get 7. All right, get 7. All right, let's go for 8. 8. Let's go for 9. 9. Let's get double-digit Super Bowls. Why not be the first organization to do it? That'd be pretty cool.
Manifesting in here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hopefully Omar Khan is listening to this, or Mike Tomlin, or Art Rooney Jr. Get me down where's the camera? Get me down in Pittsburgh. I'll help the guys out. But yeah, so I think this offseason has been a good one, and we still have like all of our major like 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round draft picks this upcoming year. But it's just about shoring up the offensive line and getting a little bit more help with the defensive line as well, because that's where games are won and lost. So
yeah, hoping we draft center.
Yeah, maybe a lot of the mock drafts have like a guy from Oregon and Oregon State, like those centers coming out of there. So we'll see what happens, but we still have the draft. The draft's actually coming up at the end of this month, so we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Yeah,
it's just crazy. Russell Wilson's on the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean he's been a complete meme the last year and a half when he was on the Broncos, but
unlimited.
I feel like, what's up?
Unlimited.
Yeah, unlimited. Yeah, Mr. Unlimited. Yeah. So I think it'll be an interesting fit, but knowing enough about the Steelers organization and how it's run, they wouldn't bring somebody in if they didn't feel like they could help him win a Super Bowl. And especially when they brought Arthur Smith in, the former Falcons head coach. He's now the offensive coordinator. He was so run heavy with the Falcons as a head coach. And Russell Wilson has thrived his career, especially in Seattle, on the play action pass. So that'll be like the perfect opportunity for him. And especially when you have a guy like Justin Fields backing him up, like that's a great opportunity where Russell Wilson and Justin Fields have similar playing styles where you use the play action pass, you have the 5-step drop back, and you're hitting a guy on a 10-seam in post in. Like those types of offense, I think it's going to work well this year. And the defense is always extremely good. But I think they just need to find. I think their biggest weakness over the past couple of years was that they needed to find like a leader in the locker room, especially on the offensive side.
After Big Ben.
Yeah, after Big Ben retired, yeah, because it's always been a bunch of young guys with a lot of talent, but you don't have that leader. Because like you look at on the defensive side of the ball, you have Cam Hayward, you have T.J. Watt now, you have Minkah Fitzpatrick. On the offensive side, you have Najee Harris is the oldest guy on the offense. He's 25, 26. So you bring in a guy like Russell Wilson who has all this experience. He's won a Super Bowl in Seattle. Like he's going to be able to command a locker room. And I think he's on a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken, or a 2-year deal.
Incredible. Like him and Fields combined are $4.5 million.
Yeah, it's like that. But like I'm pretty sure Russell Wilson's on a 1-year deal right now. So I don't think it'll be hard to go to a Super Bowl this year, especially with how loaded the AFC is, especially these past couple of years. But the opportunity to compete is obviously a glorious thing. Yeah,
especially in the division. They always compete in the division.
Oh, yeah.
They could have me at quarterback, and I think
it seems like they'd still find a way to win.
They'd still find a win.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, I am extremely excited. And the whole offseason, I really wanted Justin Fields because of the kind of – I just felt like he was a quarterback that could kind of be the most – that could give you the most boom potentially. And I know that, like, 3 years into his career, and it's been very up and down. But
yeah, Chicago wasn't the best place for him because he had, I think, 2 or 3 offensive coordinators in his 3 years at Chicago. In Chicago. So we'll have to see what happens with him here, but I think it'll benefit from learning from Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So
they're very similar in a lot of ways in the way that they play.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some of the good and the bad ways. But like I've always felt that the Fields in Chicago was Fields needed a change of scenery from Chicago.
Yeah.
I felt that since he was drafted there. So for him to come to the Steelers with Mike Tomlin, I think it's just kind of a perfect fit in a way. And the Steelers have given themselves a lot of options, like you said, with the guys around such cheap, short deals.
Yeah, and Justin, I can remember seeing a video briefly about Justin Fields and Mike Tomlin at Justin Fields' pro day at Ohio State, and he's liked Justin Fields as a prospect, but I know he said the same thing to Chase Young a couple years prior, that he doesn't want to be bad enough to be able to draft that guy in like the top 5 in the top 5. So being able to get him now after he's had a couple years in the NFL, learning how the pros work, could benefit him very highly in his next couple years in Pittsburgh.
So yeah, and naturally, Tomlin, Steelers are always going to be good.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see kind of how that all translates, and it's fun.
Yeah, I just think the biggest thing for them, the complacency of just trying to save Mike Tomlin's winning record. Like, obviously, it's a huge deal. Like, he's been going on for like 17 years now.
Yeah.
17. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 17 years. But we want to win a championship. So the city of Pittsburgh hasn't won one in
since the Penguins.
16?
Yeah.
Well, for the Steelers specifically.
For the Steelers, yeah.
16 years since the Steelers have won a Super Bowl. But that's too much time in between. So
yeah.
we need to get number 7 very soon.
Yeah. Crossing my fingers.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, it's just fun to be excited about the Steelers.
Yeah.
And so I like to kind of moving on, I'd like to ask you what's something people may not know about you, or some things people may not know about you.
Oh boy. That's a interesting question. I know you told me about like the topics you were talking about, and I probably had a bigger opportunity to think about it, but I honestly couldn't. I like to think I'm an open book. Like, if you ask me about it, I'm more than likely to tell you.
The amount of times I hear that when I ask this question.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to think. I'll try to give you a better answer. Something that people don't really know about me. That is a question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Trying to think. I mean, I'm one of 15 younger, like my grandmother has 15 or 16 now grandchildren, and I'm the oldest of all of them. So I come from a pretty big family. Like my mom was one of 7 because she grew up on a farm and like was milking cows at 5 a.m. before she had to go to school and get on the bus, helping out with my grandfather and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm one of 16 grandchildren now for my grandmother. I don't know. I know how to drive stick shift truck, manual. That was my first car.
The more you know.
In high school. So that was a lot of fun. I put a sticker on the back of my car that said millennial anti-theft device, and it was like a picture of the stick of the shift. But the more that I had the sticker, the more that I talked to people, it seemed like actually quite a few people knew how to drive it, at least from Pennsylvania. I'm sure nobody. I don't think. Do you guys know how to drive stick shift?
I was learning
Not yet.
My grandfather's car crashed.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. So yeah, I know how to do that. I haven't done it in a couple years because the truck was just getting old and we had to sell it. And because I was also coming to college and I wasn't driving a 1995 Chevy S10, 160 miles to school across the highway for 3 hours. So I know how to do those couple things. And kind of just going back to the being one of 16, I know we talked about in the beginning, I like had a natural progression to being a leader. I think it's kind of where it started. Because my grandfather, who was married to my grandmother, he died in 2017. And I was in 8th grade. Yeah, I was in 8th grade at that point. And of course it had to be like a day like today where it was raining the whole day, and I should have known that something was going to happen. But when I found out the unfortunately passed, like I was sitting in the waiting room in the hospital. And my grandmother came up to me and was like, all right, it's time for you to step into his size 15 shoes. And as an 8th grader, like that stuck with me. So I think it's kind of where that natural progression of leadership kind of happened. But yeah, so I think it's kind of where it all stems from. But being one of 16, I don't take very lightly. Like I'm very serious about it and try to be as best available as I can to everyone. But obviously being 3 hours away from everyone, at least, can be difficult at times.
You could have a whole broadcasting team full of course.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's on my mom's side, so it's like the deal side of my family is like where it comes from. Because it's quite opposite on my dad's side, where my dad is one of 3 brothers, and I'm like, it's pretty much just me and my sister that I see. So like, it's pretty much just like the 2 of us compared to like the 16 on my mom's side. So
yeah, that says a lot. It adds to your lore.
Yeah,
character
yeah, if you want to say that, yeah.
To kind of know that, and it makes a lot of sense to kind of want to be a like I've said, like lead by example.
Yeah,
and to kind of be the extra big brother figure for.
Yeah, and there's so much, and there's such an age difference between me and one of my younger cousins that I'm actually his godfather. So like you can like in the Catholic Church you can become a godfather, I think, as long as you're 16 years apart from somebody. So I turned 18, and my aunt had her son, who lives in Georgia, and I was like his godfather, excuse me. And we FaceTime every once in a while. He'll yell at me and punch me and stuff like that. But he's only I should know this number. I think he's 4 now. Yeah, like 4 or 5 now. So doesn't hurt that much yet. But I'm sure in a couple years he'll be like his dad and trying to beat me up as much as he can. So yeah,
future Q30 president.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see what avenue he wants to go on to, but I don't think it'll be this. But it's too early to tell.
The Coar dynasty.
It's too early to tell, but we'll see what happens with him.
Awesome. That was cool to know.
Yeah,
those say a lot, and kind of I like to ask you this usually very unfair question. What are some of your hopes and dreams, whether it be professionally or in general?
Oh boy, it's another loaded question. I mean, obviously, like I want to work in sports, like that's the pipe dream. I want to do that. But I also want to like have a family eventually too, because like probably not the right career path to go into if I want to still have a family, because it just takes up a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I will like it kind of like all this kind of ties together one way or another. About like I am one of 16 grandchildren. I have my mom, my dad, and my sister, who I've been fortunate enough to still be in contact with. I'm actually leaving to go see them this weekend. So like I've always been around family, and it's always been a huge part of my life, and I feel like I've not to be cliche, but I feel like I found that here at school again, like my home away from home. But that's something that I've tried talking to people about, like who are in the industry. I was like, how do you do it? Like just kind of picking their brains about it. But like that's one of the big things that I've thought about, especially, I don't know if you want to be thinking about it at 21 years old, but it's something I've thought about because like I want to be able to set myself up to be able to still be able to function as a, like a, 35-year-old and still be able to go, throw football with my son or my daughter or whatever it may be. So something I've always thought about. Like I said, I don't know if you should be thinking about that at 21 years old, but it's something that I've thought about. But career-wise, like I said, eventually I want to be able to say that I've gone to every NFL stadium and every NBA arena and every NHL arena as well, every MLB ballpark before I'm done, before somebody calls me up and says your time's over. So that's a big goal of mine. But that's just because it's fun. But like I said, I'll try to get the professional part now. So like trying to work in sports, I feel like that's the easiest way to do it. Just being able to be a storyteller. It's something that I've definitely am new to compared to everyone else. Because like in high school, I didn't do a whole lot of that. But it was more like once I got to school here at Quinnipiac, it's been I've had to learn on the fly, I guess you could say, and I feel like I've gotten better, but I'm still nowhere near where I want to be. So,
yeah, great goals. I mean, professional athletes have families.
Yeah,
they're constantly traveling, constantly training.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes if you want to have the time, you have to make the time.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something you'd be very much willing to do, knowing you.
Yeah, yeah. It's something that like I said, I've thought about a lot. And if like it goes back to like if there's a will, there's a way, and there's always a way to do it. But I feel like you just have to find the right person to be with and the right people to surround yourself around. So that way you can still take care of the people that matter most to you.
Very much so, and wanting to work in sports, and you never know where that can take you. You can end up working in news or doing other things. So, like I said, the Q30 provides you so many opportunities, and then those opportunities can open up as we leave here. So now I'd like to ask you what I call the golden question, but that's typically because I have film majors on here.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite movies?
Oh boy. Remember the Titans is a good one. Sports movie.
That's very
Denzel
Countercore.
Washington. Yeah. Every time I saw someone that, I was like, yeah, that tracks. That makes sense. Yeah. Other sports movies. I mean, I'll just stay with the sports theme if that's all right. Because I have a bunch of them. So Remember the Titans, Miracle, from the Lake Placid 1980 Olympics. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, I apologize about that. Yeah, Remember the Titans, Miracle. Rudy's always a good movie. Really good movie.
I knew you were gonna say Rudy.
Yeah, there's those. I'll try to think of a couple of non-sports movies that I like. I really like National Treasure as well.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Nick
Cage. Yeah.
Nick Cage. Yeah. I like learning about history and stuff like that too. So like like National Treasures, even though it's very much fictional, it's cool to learn about like, oh, if you go up to Mount Rushmore, is it actually an eagle? Like all that small stuff. Saving Private Ryan. I like that movie quite a bit. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I know I have at least 2 or 3 more that I'm forgetting about, but I can't quite think of them right now. Yeah, I'll stick with that list for now. But I know for a fact that I've watched more that I've liked, but I just can't think of them right now.
Forrest Gump, is that?
Never watched it.
Never watched it?
Never
Okay.
watched it. I know that's something that I might get a lot of kickback from and be like, how have you not watched this yet? But I don't know. I just haven't. So
Yeah, I think it's on my Connor Core watch list.
yeah,
for
okay.
you.
I'll make sure to add it. I have a running list. They don't actually have a list, but people have said, "Hey, you gotta watch this." I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll watch that." But then I didn't actually read it. Yeah. So yeah, I'll stick with that list for now. But I know, like I said, I know there's more that I've watched and I've thoroughly enjoyed.
Very
So.
strong list of movies.
Yeah. It is a strong list, but I know for a fact that there's more. I just can't.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said,
It's always
I just can't think of them right now.
Yeah, it's always being on the spot.
Yeah.
And it's like you kind of just suddenly like, what are your favorite movies? They all just leave your brain.
Yeah.
I know it.
It happens way too often, not just with movies, but like with other things as well. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of before we wrap things up here, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I mean, honestly, I just appreciate you having me on. I know
Mhm.
this is something when you first wanted to start the podcast, you said like, "Hey, would you want to like be a guest at some point?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." I mean, I love talking to people. It's always a good thing. I think it's part of the reason why I'm a journalism major and a communication student because I enjoy talking to people. But yeah, it's been a cool experience. I know it's a little early in the morning to do it, but no, I've still had a great time and I appreciate everything that you've done with the Zicast. I know I've been following it for a while.
Oh, thank you.
I always like the little memes that you guys do.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's all him. All right, yeah. All the memes, those are always good, and trying to drive people to listen to the podcast. So
Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate you just having me on.
And I appreciate that, and I also appreciate you kind of very much welcoming me into Q30.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what everything's about. Like, you know, offering opportunities and paying it back to the people who were, like I said earlier, in your shoes, you know, 2, 3, however many years ago, and trying to figure out the best way to help them succeed at their time at Quinnipiac, because it's a long, but it goes by very quick, those 4 years. So try to make the most of them every single day. So
Yeah, I very much attest that, and Q30 has been one of my homes. It's given me a lot, so I very much appreciate it, and very happy that I got to talk to you about it on here.
Yeah, it's good to hear that you've enjoyed it, and especially in your short time that you've been a part of Quinnipiac and stuff like that. So it's always good to hear.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see where it all continues to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Both of us. So yeah, as always, this is Ryan Ziaks with the Zicast, where everyone has a story. Signing off. Thank you so much for watching.